I have on the wall, I don't know if you can kind of see it up there, there's a poster of Frankenstein holding a bunch of work tools, and it says, "Don't get mad, get busy." And that's like, a motivation. I have a bunch of quotes. There's a quote I wrote on my wall that I heard on a podcast or someone saying that people want to see something they have never seen before. And that's like inspiration for like me. So like when I'm feeling like, what can I do this week? It's like, look at that and like, this is what is going to make you grow and, climb that ladder.
Welcome to the Evolve Podcast, an open forum on personal growth and cultivating a positive mindset. I'm your host, Joe Fitzpatrick. Today on the show, we have Cotie Brown. Cotie Brown is the co-owner and operator of Just Buried Co. Masters of the Macabre, husband and wife duo, Cotie and Kimber, have created the one-stop shop for all things spooky. Just Buried specializes in handmade horror decor, including their signature coffin mirrors, metal web wall decor, coffin-shaped shelves, one-of-a-kind framed embroidery wall art, and mirrored coffin cabinet vanities. Since Cotie started Just Buried, Kimber has helped him to expand their products and improve their brand with creating their website, TikTok videos, and assisting Cotie with sales and networking at craft shows and conventions. I met Cotie when we were both living in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia, and we were both active members in the local music scene. Cotie has played in many bands over the years, and his passion for punk rock began when his family lived in London during his teenage years. His love for music and creating new products continues to grow. Check out his path to where he is today. Let's go. Cotie, thanks for coming on the podcast. Really looking forward to this conversation. Before we get started, can you please just introduce yourself to the audience? Tell me who you are, what you do for a living, and what you're passionate about.
All right, my name is Cotie Brown, and I co-own and operate a company called Just Buried. It is handmade horror decor, and we like to say it's showcasing the finer things in death because it's showing a fancier side. It's not just Halloween decor, and a lot of what you'll see that we create and bring to people is, it's things what I would consider the finer things in death. It just looks really nice and like, it's beyond the quality of stuff you'd see like in like a Hobby Lobby or a Michael's Halloween section, So I've been doing that for about 6 years, and this is the first year doing it full time. Started about 2016. I was like welding little coffin shelves together when I was a welder in Virginia Beach, and it kind of just led from there. And then I got a hold of some mirrors, and I figured I could learn how to cut mirrors, and that's just turn my apartment townhouse living room into a cutting shop, and then started sharing them, and just kind of snowballed to what it is today. So,
and like, how did you decide to start making mirrors in the shapes of coffins?
I saw on Craigslist someone was getting rid of these huge wall bathroom mirrors, like they were remodeling a bathroom, and there's like 3. And I was like, well, what could I do with that? And then I looked up how to cut glass, and so I went and bought the tool, got the glass, and then it's all straight lines. So I just learned how to break glass at 1/4-inch thick glass. And so at that point, a lot of trial and error, a lot of cutting the fingers, a lot of slices. And so, but I just thought it was the easiest thing. Cutting curves is not that fun. So it's still not fun, but people love spooky stuff and Halloween, and I just kept sharing it and just got to where it is today. So, and then I feel like I could have taken it further years ago, but I didn't have that someone to push me to what has happened recently. So it's like I've had someone to really push me going further, because I was just so content just doing what I was like, I was offering like 3 or 4 products. Now we offer like 20 or 30. So,
Right. So you started with an Etsy shop, correct? You were just selling
yeah.
products on there.
Yeah, I started, well, at first it was just sharing on Facebook and Instagram. And then I moved to California in 2007, or late 2017. And when I got out there, the person I was seeing out there had an Etsy shop, and they encouraged me to get an Etsy shop. And then I did that with them for a little bit, but then we split and I carried on the name. So I took Just Berry from that relationship. So I'm selling on Instagram first, and like not really selling on Instagram, just more so sharing, posting about what I was doing. And someone was like, "Hey, like how much are you selling these for?" And I would sell probably like, 1 or 2 a month. And you just kind of getting it out there. And man, it if I was to show you like the first one I made to what I make now, you can see the evolution of what, the progress of like what it's been. It's like, so it's like I part of me feels bad for the people who have like the very first, like, the first year ones that I have, and I'm like, I wish I could get you the current ones because they look so much better. But
What's
it's just
different about them other than the quality?
just the shape. It's always maintained like the coffin shape, but it's like now instead of just doing like a plain frame where there's no routing on the edge, or there's no like accent pieces, or there's like, or instead of just painting it black, I'm staining the different colors and doing different cabinet shelves. So it's just that it's just, there's a lot of creativity in my mind. It's just a matter of getting to it, and like on top of the orders and everything. But so yeah, I would share on Instagram and Facebook, and get kind of, it started snowballing. And then once I got to California, I started the Etsy shop. And around the time that I left California, I was only there for almost 2 years. And I left in May of 2019. And around that time, I was getting consistent, like maybe 10 to 20 orders a month. And then, so I was pretty much shipping out like weekly. And then once I moved to North Carolina in May of 2019, and I set up shop in my parents' garage on just like a 6-foot table. So I was like in their garage, like in a small little shop or small little table, and I made it work for about 2 to 3 months. And then that's whenever Jesse asked me to come fill in for his band Wish. And then that's whenever, like, I started coming to Richmond in June of 2019. And then I was like, I just need to move here. So, and then once I hit Richmond, from the time I hit Richmond to now, I've shipped anywhere from 5 to 15 orders a week. So it's been very consistent doing that. So, I mean, people love coffin shaped decor, and they're very supportive, and there's always a market for it. It does die down at times, but then it picks back up. And the one thing I say about it, it may not be for you, but you always know someone who's going to be into it. Like, someone who's going to appreciate what we're doing. So, but yeah, so that's Etsy shop. Now we have a website as well. So we have a Squarespace. We wanted to try to leave Etsy behind, but they do so much advertising for you, and it's like our website, it looks so cool. Kimber did such a good job with making it, and it's like we try to promote it ourselves as much as possible through like Facebook ads and Instagram ads. But Etsy, they just have like a built-in advertising system where they charge you. It takes like, a certain amount a month out.
Right.
So the only thing I don't like about Etsy is that we paid like a certain amount for our website for 1 year, and we get all of the money. Etsy takes a percentage out of your sales, and since I'm selling items that are anywhere from like, $50 to $300, the percentage always fluctuates. And some months they'll get like $400 out of me. Some months they'll get $1,000 out of me. It's just like, but very user friendly. When I first started using Squarespace, I kept yelling at the computer because I was like, why can't I do this? And thinking like it was Etsy, but that's why you pay for Etsy for what you do, because it's so user friendly.
With Etsy, you could like list certain products on there that are like specific, like Etsy exclusives. so you can still take advantage of that marketing and then use it to like redirect people to your website. I know
Yeah.
vendors do that as well. And I was going to ask about like that commission that they take. I know that is one downside to Etsy, but it is cool to know that they have that built-in marketing
Yeah. Yeah.
as well.
That was like the one thing that I never really paid attention to it, because around the time the pandemic hit, when they started handing out all the stimulus checks, I was, for some reason, I don't know what it was. There's people were supporting small businesses and people out there chasing it and doing everything, and I was pushing out like 40 to 60 orders a month, and it was just like, well, I bought my engagement ring for my wife with that money, like that. Like I saved up a lot of money for that, and that's like, that it says a lot for what I was doing, and then like, and it's also like I would work, you know, 40, 50 hours a week at a welding job in a shop in like Ashland. Then I'd come home at night and I'd work from like 5 to 7 or 8 on stuff in the room that I was working in when I moved to Richmond. So it's really nice to have like, freedom to do it full time now. So, but
Yeah, absolutely.
the the Etsy thing though also is like, if I'm looking for something personally, I know I can find it on Etsy. So that's why I love Etsy. It's like, if I need a Hulk Hogan t-shirt from 1985, it's gonna be on Etsy.
Yeah. It's a great site for vintage and
Mm-hmm.
made goods.
Yeah,
For
you can't go wrong with it. But it's just like it would be perfect if we could like branch off from it, but it's not possible right now. So
yeah. Well, I'm sure, eventually, you'll
yeah, yeah.
that. But I want to talk a bit about your background in welding. So,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
when did you start getting into welding, and why did you choose that career?
So the first time I was ever around welding, about like 21, 22, 2021. My brother and I worked for the steel framing company where we would just build. We'd go out to like and Chesapeake was one of the locations. In Portsmouth, we built in Portsmouth, Virginia. We built there was a marble company that had marble countertops, and we built like their warehouse. So we built the steel structure for it. And I was just, I was a helper, a laborer. I was young, I was learning, but we would put everything together, and I'd watch this welder guy come out there with his own truck, his own trailer, and he just would, hook everything up, and I would just watch him weld everything. I was like, I want to do that, and like it just that kind of like sparked the interest. And then I had some experience torch cutting and welding here and there. But then 2000, it was almost 10 years ago. It was like 2016 or 15. I went to Tidewater Tech trade school. And it was one of those commercials you see on TV, like, what are you doing? You're just on your butt. Get off your butt and call this number. And like literally that's just how it got me. And I went and signed up and did 4 days a week, like 8 to 2, and I worked at Car Spa off of Lynn Haven in Virginia Beach during that time frame to get me through college and the trade school. And then from trade school, I went straight into working for a Navy contractor called Oceaneering, where we would restore and fix. It was like in the shipyard, because that's just what it's just shipbuilding industry there. But I initially wanted to build motorcycles. That's what took me through the door. And then I realized while I was there that there's really not a lot of money in that if I don't have any really knowledge in it, and then that all the money is in shipbuilding. So I went straight from having going to welding school to oceaneering, and then right when I left welding school, I was an apprentice for oceaneering, and they reteach you everything you learned in welding school, but to Navy standards. So it's all like it's very similar, but they're just Navy standards, because if you're having like a submarine going under, it has to be like, pressure and like make sure no welds burst or anything. That was a big issue in like I think the 70s, with some submarine up in New Hampshire went down for a routine dive, and a pipe burst and everyone on board passed away. It was like over 100 people that ended up. And so they started this program called NAVSEA, and then that was just like Navy standards of like, these are, make sure that this doesn't happen again. So, but I lasted about a year there, and me and one of the foremen didn't really get into it, or didn't really get along. And I looked at it as and that also opened the door for me to go to California, because if I didn't lose that job, I would have had to stay there for 4 years, go through the college program, and then probably keep working for that company, and I'd still be in Virginia Beach. So so it's like it was a bad situation. Like, I saw it as a bad situation, but I feel like it was like a blessing in disguise. I got to do so much other stuff with it. So it's like this opportunity of like, this sucks going through this, but this is what I got to do instead. So I did. So that got me, so welding school, oceaneering. And then once I left for California, I welded on a bunch of random stuff, and just like houses, elevator shafts, anything I could really, get a job with. Like every 2 months, for the first 6 months, I switched shops every 2 months, and I finally found a job in the machine shop, and I was the only welder. And they just needed a welder to do some jobs for them, and I learned how to run some CNC machines and some other stuff. And then they shut the company down, and my relationship had basically ended. And so California is really expensive, and I wasn't going to pay $1,000 to rent a storage unit room size in a stranger's house. So I decided to come back east and ended up in Richmond around September of 2019. So, but and then
So
being a welder, being a welder, you can pretty much travel anywhere. If you're willing to get up and move, there's always welder jobs everywhere.
yeah, so I was going to ask about that. With the trade school that you went to, did they help you get the apprenticeship job with the shipyard?
Yeah. So I think, so to get that, you basically have to be like a shining A student, like perfect attendance, perfect grades. So basically, what I had is I had perfect attendance, passed all my tests with like A's, passed all my weld tests first time, got my certs, and from that they took like, I think, 20 students, and they put them all in like a job fair with the people from this company, like the apprenticeship program directors,
Mm-hmm.
and they put us all in a room with them, and trying to think about how this went. But we were all in there. They gave us kind of like a slideshow presentation of what oceaneering is, like, what they do. They're contracted by the shipyard or the Navy. They're contracted by the Navy to restore hovercrafts and submarines. And the girl that I was dating at the time had a cousin that worked for this company, and he was in the apprenticeship program. So he gave me all the ends of what to expect, like how the interview was going to go. And so I went in like prepared. I was like, I'm going to get this. I was focused, and I went in with, like, I researched the company, looked at what they did, where they worked around the world. And so I went to the job fair thing, and they were like, over 500 people apply to be welders because people think being a welder is such a cool job and pays so well. So it's like, I mean, that's why we're all here. And so like that's like the most applicants, but they would hire like electricians, like fabricators, fitters, and stuff. So there was a range of trades within the apprenticeship program they would hire. But out of that, they interviewed over 600 people and hired 2 welders, and I was one of the 2. And so how I came prepared to the interview is I knew the questions that the cousin, he gave me all the questions. He was like, you got to answer like, what's a life-changing moment? What's something that, how you view situations and everything. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, I made sure I came in prepared. I took pictures of everything I welded in school, little things I made. So I had like a color photo booklet for them to look at. It was a 5-person panel interview too. So there's like 5 different trade people there, and just went through. And I always feel like going in an interview looking how I look and being so tall, I feel like I can intimidate people. But once I start talking, you realize, oh, he's just Cotie. It's just, he's just someone who wants to learn and do things. So, but the interview went great, and ended up started working there, and went through weld school all over again. But I got to learn how to TIG weld on aluminum this time, which was what you would mainly weld on the hovercrafts and the submarines.
So they had their own welding school, and you had to, basically do continuing education classes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then also they put us in night school at the Tidewater Community College. There was one of the campuses was in Portsmouth, and then one of them was in Virginia Beach. But it was all like shipbuilding, like maritime, like industry stuff. You would learn about safety of the ships and how to, and like math classes, and I think you had to take some English classes or something, but I only lasted a year in the apprenticeship program, so that all the school ended after that right then too. Like I didn't choose to go further. Plus, I was like, I'm just gonna go to California. So it's like ended up just working as a car wash until I moved to California. So and then once I got to California, like right away, jumped into a welding job. I was like, I got to get back into this. So
That's cool. So they didn't care in California that you didn't finish the apprenticeship program.
no, it's because I'm always upfront about it. Just like me and one of the supervisors just didn't get along, and it was a miscommunication thing, and uh, it was like I was fire watching four welders, and one of them got out, told me, and and then it was right before lunch, so I thought he was gone, and then the other three got out when the lunch bell rang, but the one who got out first didn't tell me that he got back in. And then I went to lunch, and it looked like I abandoned my post. And the supervisor just like, there's my chance to fire him. Like, you know, just like whatever, like, you know. So I looked at it as like this. There's an opportunity in this, so I just moved on from it. So
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate it worked out that way, but sounds like it was for the best. You know,
yeah, no,
we have sometimes we don't realize it in the moment, but you know, in hindsight, with more perspective, we can appreciate when bad things happen to us that can seem bad at the time. But
yeah, yeah. I try to look at that with things now. I'm like, there's got to be something good out of this. Like this sucks right now, but
mm,
there's something good coming from this. Like so that's what I try to encourage my friends. Like don't let the moment that you're in consume you. You know, just like get through it. You know. So, but yeah, that's so then and then in Richmond 2019, and then jumped from a couple of shops, and now I'm so. But welding, I'd say I one of the most challenging things because you always have to perform. You can't let that skill drop. You know, it's like you
yeah,
can't. It's like I was like for Europe when I was listening to you talk about working at Babies R Us, and it's like how you talk about how unhappy you were. It's just like like I could imagine like that wouldn't be a fun job to be at. And it's just like
no,
and I was like, and I knew that I feel like I feel like we kind of hung out around that time because I mean there was around 2010 or 11 we were hanging out a few times in Virginia Beach because of the band stuff, but
yeah.
I don't.
So I was in college at the time. I graduated from CNU, Christopher Newport, in 20.
Yeah. I always knew you were involved with Newport News. That's like where I tagged you. Like he's Newport News is like his central location, but I know he can float. So you can float from Richmond to Virginia Beach being in Newport News. Like,
Right. So yeah, I was coming up around that time. I was coming up to Richmond a lot for like shows and parties. And then my parents, they lived in Virginia Beach. So I would go back to see them, from time to time. Um, and yeah, Richmond was always a cool place to be. You can relate to that, for the music
yeah.
scene and for the social scene. So I always wanted to move to Richmond after college, but I had to live in Northern Virginia for about 5 years because I, was having trouble getting a job in Richmond when I was like applying after college. And
Mm-hmm.
got that job at Babies R Us, which took me up there initially, and then I started doing all bunch of other shit.
Yeah, I had no idea that because I never really asked you like, what do you do? Because I just felt like we were just hanging out and music was our connection. I just didn't really care anything about like I was like, that's the connection. We're gonna play music together, and that's cool. And
Yeah.
so it was interesting to hear like I was like I didn't know that I didn't know that he worked at IHOP or at Babies R Us, and I was like I can't see him doing either of those.
Yeah,
Like
I've definitely had some interesting jobs over the years.
yeah.
Some good life experience gained from that.
Do
Um,
you remember the Fazoli's in Newport News by that IHOP
I
on
think,
Jefferson? It's like Jefferson. There was a Fazoli. There's a Fazoli's, a IHOP, and like it was like King's something was a apartment complex back there. But when
uh,
I graduated high school, uh, in 2005, my brother and his then ex-wife or his ex-wife, but they were moving. They were living in a townhouse back there, and I ended up moving. I graduated high school, moved in with them, and got a job at Fazoli's. So I
Okay.
got to like walk over there and do like the food prep at like 6 in the morning, and that was my like 19 to like 2021 job, and then I did the steel framing, and then I ended up moving to Virginia Beach. So, but it's just I just made me think when you said IHOP, and I was like, man, I remember working at Fazoli's in Newport News.
Yeah,
So
probably a different experience for you than it was for me. It is.
yeah, I've never served any food, so I just I don't know how I've bussed tables, but I've never been a server.
It was a job that I did because I felt like I had to. It was really the only way I could make money at that time, and I didn't do it very well. So I haven't been
Yeah,
since then.
yeah. I would say also with how you described how things were for you, like I mean I know we didn't hang out a lot, but like from the time that I got to be around you and see you at shows and everything, I just always thought that you were just a really chill, nice person, and just like you're easy to be around, easy to talk to, you're straightforward, like someone that would be trustworthy. But like we never really got to like hang out outside of shows or music, so it's like I didn't get that perspective.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. We have gotten to know each other over the years in different ways, but not on a really like in-depth level. So I'm really glad that we're able to do that now. Hey guys, brief pause in the episode to tell you about some of the great businesses that support this podcast. First, we got Weight Train. Use code Evolved Podcast to get 10% off all Weight Train and Athleticity gym gear and apparel. No matter what you need for your workouts, they have the gear to help you get it done. And if you don't see something you want, email them at team@weighttrain.com and they will take your requests for new products. Visit Weight Train for all your gym gear needs. Next is True Nutrition. Use code Evolved Podcast to get 5% off all nutrition supplements. I'm personally a fan of their soy isolate vegan protein powder, available in a variety of flavors and strengths, from light to heavy. They also have non-vegan protein powders if that's not your thing. I personally recommend the cinnamon bun and toasted coconut flavors in the heavy strength, and I add them to waffles, oatmeal, protein shakes, and ice cream. They're delicious. Check out their wide range of supplements at affordable prices that are third-party tested and verified for content quality. They are able to provide such great prices because the supplements come direct from the manufacturer without any marketing gimmicks or fancy labels. Visit truenutrition.com to supplement your workouts and your nutrition. Last is Hate Brand Goods. Use code Evolved Podcast to get 15% off all Hate Brand clothing and accessories. Their goat shorts and shirts are the most comfortable clothing I've ever worn, and they have the coolest designs. However, their clothing drops are only available in limited quantities, so get your favorites while you can, and be on the lookout for other drops that you're stoked on. Visit thehate.com, spelled HVIII, for clothing to remind the world that you're not dead yet and you're ready to kick today in the dick. Back to the show. I'm trying to think back to when we first met. I think it was maybe when you were playing in Honor Crest, possibly, or maybe before.
Yeah, didn't you take pictures at that like Yoder Farm show?
No, that was the Battle of the Bands that I put on for my fraternity. We're going way back. This was
but didn't you take pictures at that one? Like
or 2011.
yeah.
I did not take photos at that event because I was busy running the show. But yeah, I've taken a shit.
There's several photos. I have several photos of you from the years of that you have taken, and they're fun to look back on and just think of the memories and the what was going on of those at that show. Like there's a couple of pictures. I want to say you took some pictures of us at Skate High. We played at Skate High once, and it was like it's just a crazy. It was like our first or second show, and it's like I think that was with Time Bomb, and I think that's that was a fun time. But the Honor Crest stuff was a lot of fun, man. It's crazy to think that was actually a thing and like how fast it was, and it's like 8 months seems so long, but it happened so fast. So
yeah, and you I think you were one of those guys that were like in and out of a lot of bands. playing music for a while with a bunch of different.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
you mentioned I Time Bomb, uh, the band that I auditioned to be vocalist in, but didn't work out.
Yeah.
No hard feelings
Yeah.
there. But you guys were really cool, and I was always a big fan.
Yeah. That was a fun angsty. There was a lot of we were just all in our young mid 20s. You couldn't tell us anything. We were just having fun. I remember we played an audio strobe light show at the Norva, and they did a live stream at, I think, the drummer's house for like promo of the show, and had everyone in the chat room. And that was a horrible idea for us to be a part of that, because there was one of the guys was just like on the chat room, just like joking with everybody. It's just like, man, like I don't know. It's just, they just think back, like those are just experiences that I wouldn't do it again, but like I cherish it for what it was. It's like those are good memories to like laugh about, but like I for sure wouldn't, I wouldn't want to go back and live those again. It's just that like I just think I look at things differently through a different lens now. It's like I wouldn't, behave the way I did then. So it's like,
Mhm.
not that it was bad, but it was very like, just, you can't tell me any. It's very naive, very very naive, and like, you just gotta grow. So it's like, so I don't know. That's my advice to a lot of young people now. It's just like, I have a little brother that's 21, and I'm like, he was asking me about tattoos. He's like, I want to get a tattoo on my neck or my hand, and I was like, don't, like, don't do that. You're 21. Don't
Yeah,
do that till like you're
wait a
30.
little bit.
Yeah, I really feel like people shouldn't be tattooed until they're like mid 20s, so you don't get a dumb tattoo at 17 and then get it covered up.
Is that
You
what you
know.
did?
Yeah. There's the big black Hanya right here. I got a swallow, a traditional swallow bird tattooed on my neck when I was a senior in high school. I left school that day, went to this local tattoo shop, paid like $40, and it was like 2003 or four. My mom wasn't too happy about that one. It was for my aunt had passed away on, I think, August. She had passed away that year from breast cancer in like August 2003 or four. And so I was like, oh, it's for Aunt Marie. And she's like, that's nice, but like you could have got it somewhere else. And just at that point, my parents were like, you're 18, you're just gonna do what you want. And it was like I was working at some local burger place in the mall. I lived in Elizabeth City, so not much there. And I worked in the mall, and it was like this burger place, and I would spend all my checks on going to get tattoos that I shouldn't have been getting. So,
So
but
was the swallow your first tattoo?
no, that was, I like to call it my bro star.
Okay.
Because of Travis Barker. I
Yeah.
was really big, I'm obviously always going to be a Blink-182 fan, but like that was like my thing at 17. It was like skateboarding and playing music. So it was either skateboarding with my friends or inside playing guitar and starting bands. And I think my first band that I had was like 16 years old, and in Yorktown at Tab High School. So I was with a band with some kids from that school. So
What kind of music did you guys play?
we played, it was called All Present, and it was like we covered Something Corporate and Good Charlotte at the talent show and won first place.
Nice. I love
We
it.
covered Punk Rock Princess by Something Corporate, which
Wow.
is still a banger. And then what it was, I think it was either Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. It was off of that record that at that time Good Charlotte put out.
The
And I
anthem.
think,
Yeah.
it might have been the anthem, or it's just one of those singles. But we played those two songs, and then we went, and then we won, and then we got to play at an assembly in front of the school mid school day, which was really cool. And then the singer kicked me out. So that was my first like band heartbreak, and I was like, whatever. It sucked, but I was like, like it's just you grow. You can't be a success if you don't have any failures. You got to know what it's like to be, pick yourself back up. So
Yeah. So you started off playing guitar, right?
yeah, I got a guitar when I was 14. So, and I lived in England at the time. My dad was in the Air Force, so we bounced around every 2 to 4 years. So I was born in Tampa, Florida, and then after a year or so, my dad went remote to Korea, and that, like, when you join the Air Force or any, I guess, military, but mainly I only know the Air Force really, but Air Force, he had to go to live in Korea for a year. And so instead of taking the whole family there for just a year, we stayed in Maine. But I lived in Louisiana I stayed in Maine for a year, and then lived in Louisiana for a few years. and I started kindergarten there, but then went to Japan for 4 years. So I was in Japan from 6 years old to 10. So 92 to 96, which is a really cool time to be in Japan because that's when the Nintendo 64 came out. And I was in just, I mean, look at Japan now. It's just the same. Like, I'm sure it's way more cooler now, but like then though, it was just like they don't. It's like they think without limits. You know, they don't have limits on what they create and stuff. So it was really cool to be over there. And I was a little kid with blonde hair, and they would like follow me around and like ask me to take pictures because they just love blonde haired kids for some reason, or just blonde hair. But so I played on a traveling soccer team there, so I got to see a lot of Japan and a lot of the culture. So really appreciate that. And so went from Japan to South Carolina for 2 years, and then England for 4 years, which is where I met what I would consider like my family. And what I meant was that like the kids that skateboarded, the kids that were in the punk rock, the kids that were into what I was into, because it wasn't anything that my family was into. You know, my mom, dad, or brother, they're all like, you know, it's not they weren't into it, but it's like I found something that was like I could express myself. So it's like I got played sports. I played like t-ball and soccer until I was 12, and at that point I stopped playing and picked up a skateboard and guitar and started doing things on my own because I didn't like the team sports. And what's funny is about when I stopped playing soccer, I was 12 and I moved to England, of all places, to stop playing soccer.
Soccer so, the world.
Yeah, so it just, but like my brother did it right. He played varsity sports like football, basketball, soccer, all 4 years of being in high school. And 3 of his years of high school, we were in England. And instead of playing, so like your high school here in the States, you would play other counties. You know, you'd go play like being in Yorktown, you would go play like, you know, Grafton or Tab, or, you know, so instead you would go play the base in France, the base in Italy, the base in Amsterdam. And being like 14 to 18, traveling with your sports team overseas with your coaches being your chaperones, like how fun would that have been? You know, like I wish I would have looked at it from a different lens, because I just looked at it as like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be on a sports team. But if I could do that over, I would play those sports just to experience those cultures, you know. So
yeah, that's cool that you got to travel so much at such a young age, like during those formative years. I'm sure that had a big impact on you.
Yeah, so that's kind of ties into like being one of the questions that Oceaneering asked me. They're like, you know, what's one thing that you had like life-changing moment? I was like, well, my dad's in the Air Force. Every 2 to 4 years, we're going somewhere new. So I have to constantly reconnect with people. So I could walk in a room and find a connection with the first people in the room, because that's just what I did growing up. So you put me in a room full of people I don't know, like I'm gonna connect with them. I'm gonna start talking to them because I know how to. Because there's a couple of times I had to do it in the middle of the school year, which is really, you know, as a kid makes you really nervous. She's like, oh, like what are people gonna think of me? You know, I was like, I can't imagine what it'd be like now having Instagram, because like, you know, having like social media. I'm glad we didn't have social media then, because I'm sure that would have put a whole different perspective on it. Like, oh, like, because then you're looking at things before you get there.
Right.
So, you know, so it's like when I moved to California, like I scoped out the area online as much as I could and music scene, what it was like. And, you know, so it's like I couldn't do that before. But yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, so that was the life change. Like the way that I describe the people is I didn't get to graduate with any lifelong friends. Like I didn't walk across the stage. It was my third high school. My senior year, I was in a new high school. So I made friends, but I only knew them for like, you know, 6 or 7 months. So it's like, it wasn't like super connected. So, but the trade-off is I got to live around the world, and, you know, I got to travel and do these different experiences. So, and that to me is like, you know, I think that's a cool trade-off. And also I have, since like the curve of technology, not like the curve of the internet and chat rooms like AOL, MSN Messenger, around like 99, 2000, you know, that's whenever I could start keeping up with my friends who moved away. I didn't have to write them a letter in the mail. I could, you know, just get in a chat room and say, hey, what's up? You know, so, and now it's just like we could, you know, I could, like we're doing right now, I could just get on a video call, and we're obviously about like hour or two away from each other, but, you know, so, and it's the same thing with the people you're doing your remote calls with. So it's like, it's crazy. Internet is a wild, beautiful, ugly place.
Yes, it's got many good and bad sides to it, but
yeah,
it is
yeah.
that we can put it to good use.
Mm-hmm.
So you still keep in touch with any of your friends from overseas?
Yeah. So around when I moved to England, that's any of I'd say from any of my friends in Japan, it's all like my parents' friends. Like my parents will talk to me about like, oh, you don't remember going over to so and so's house for breakfast every Sunday, and I was like, I don't remember why we went over there. I remember going there. I was like, but I was so young. I was like, I couldn't keep up with that. Like, I remember, yeah, it's like, but whenever South Carolina, I had, I was only there for a brief time. And that's whatever like the end of Japan and South Carolina, like that's the first time I like saw skateboarding. Like, so would see kids skateboarding around. Like, what is that? And then when I got to South Carolina, I met some kids who skateboarded. But then we moved to England. There's these two brothers and their family. They had moved from the same base that we had just left in South Carolina. So they knew some of my friends that were in South Carolina. So I
Mm.
connected with them like right away. And what they did is one of them played guitar and sang, and the other played drums, and they both skateboarded. And when you live in England, it's pretty gloomy. So it's either raining or it's dry enough to skateboard. And they would always play Blink 182 covers and Ataris and MXPX and Newfound Glory covers, and they would just be up in the room like playing drums. And I thought it was the coolest thing. I was just blown away. So I went and got a guitar, took a guitar class, and just around the time I left, their band was just doing really cool things on the bass and in England and like playing a lot of cool shows. And that was like 2001, 2002, and then they ended up moving back to their parents got stationed at Jersey, and they ended up not being able to. I guess they just said there's too much competition in the States. And I was like, yeah, there's a lot of bands in the States, like compared to England. So I imagine that England there was a bit more successful, but it's also like that's what it comes down to is like, people who want to chase it and the people who just want to like, let it go. So, but
Mhm.
I've kept in contact with them loosely. Not so much recently. They live in California, but there was one family that was moved to England at the same time, and they went to the middle school orientation, and we did the tour of the campus of the school with their family. And the family had there was three kids. Two of them were around my brother's age, but a little bit older, and then one was like my age. And we ended up just hanging out with them and staying friends with them. And when they left, they got stationed in New Jersey, and we got stationed in at Langley, and that's like about a 5-6 hour drive. So we would go visit them frequently, and I would consider them like those are like that's like a second mom to me, god brother. Just I
Mhm.
still see them when we were in Jersey recently for the punk rock flea market that Just Barry did. We stayed with them, and Kimber got to meet them, and so that was really special for me because like that's like a family that I really connect with too. So,
Yeah.
but and then anyone else is just I think just all connections through the music stuff. So, but yeah, that's like the trade off. Like, I move around the world, but I don't really have any lifelong friends. But since like 1999, that's 20 years. It's 20, going on 25 years that I've known a certain family that I really care about and I still hold close to me. So, like that's just what I would. That's just. But also, I don't ever really think about that stuff because I have so much experience around the other things. So it's like there's a trade off.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as far as identifying with the family of, punk rock and skateboarding, like I totally relate to that too. I love my family dearly, but they're not really into that kind of music or, none
Mm,
of them have tattoos.
yeah.
I, sort of like I talk about in my earlier podcast episode, I sort of lean into that because of the, angsty, rebellious nature of that kind of music.
Yeah.
Like, Um, but it's something that's stuck with me as I've
Yeah. Like being a
passed
black
that.
sheep, like you said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just sort of
Very, very relatable.
yeah, like living an alternative lifestyle that's different from the norm. Um, I just identify with that so much more, and
Yeah.
I think that lifestyle and like that sort of rebellious nature is something that is inherent in me now, but in a different way. It's
Yeah.
not as angsty and like young and defiant, but it's more related to I think sort of how I think Minor Threat phrase that's sort of out of step with the world. And, that goes into how I try to live differently, like on
Hmm.
terms, not in line with like mainstream society who are like
Oh yeah, I
doing the right
ever,
things.
ever since me and Kimber have been doing this full time, like it, it just like it definitely, like I was at the weld shop. I was like working like 56 hours, and then I'd come home and I'd work from 6 a.m. to 4:30, and I'd come home and I'd be home around 5, probably around like 5:30 or 6. I'd go out to the shop and I would work for like 2 or 3 hours. And that was like, and then I would try to make it so certain days are like, all right, when I ship every week, I take the next day off. So I just relax and then I get back into it. And then now doing it full time, like I couldn't tell you what day of the week it is. I can tell you what number of the month it is, like what number we're on the first today, but I know what day to say because obviously we're doing the podcast today. But like other than that, I couldn't tell you when Friday. Every day to me is like a Friday, and it's so nice not having to I wake up with an alarm, but I always shut it off and go back to sleep. And it's just like we're still doing or we're chasing it and doing our weekly thing, and we're trying to get on a better routine. But it's so nice not having to work for someone else and have someone else, who's just going to replace you if you get sick. If you just end up not being able to come to work, they're just going to hire someone else. They don't care about you. And like, I'd rather work for somewhere that values me. And it's like that's hard to find. But so if you can find it, chase that. And then if you can do it for yourself, chase that. Do that. Find something you love to do and find a way to make money off of it. Find a way to support yourself.
Yeah.
So that's just
It's like people say, when you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right? There,
I'll be if I could be in the shop until like 2 in the morning, I would, but I can't because Kimber wants me to come in and make dinner or hang out or
yeah,
it's just which is a good balance. But like
yeah,
I love being out here. I love it. I have a guitar out here and a little amp that if I want to just like play guitar, I'll just set up the guitar. But so it's like this is like my space and like my comfort. It's just so I don't know, but not being able to not working for someone has been so nice. I hope that I never have to do it again. There is one thing I would consider doing it again for, and but that would just be to be a well teacher, to pass on my knowledge and my experience and my story, and be like, this is what you can do. Like, look at me. Like 10 years ago, I decided to go to welding school, and now I run my own company. That is, I have welding involved, but it's mainly woodworking. But like, it's like you chase it, and you do it right. I had my ups and downs and my failures, and so I don't know. Just feel like that you just got to that push and that drive. Be enthusiastic about what you're doing. So
have you thought about making like welding tutorial videos that you can share,
yeah,
on social media or on a platform like Skillshare, for example,
I'm
where
not even sure what's Skillshare.
huh?
What's Skillshare? I don't even know what that is.
It's a platform that you can use for making your own courses, to
Oh, okay.
share materials
Huh.
similar to like masterclass. You may have heard of that, where different professionals share lessons about like their field or
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I follow. Yeah. I follow like a bunch of wood Instagram pages and crafters, and they
mm,
range and they range in followers from like some have a couple thousand followers, some have several thousand followers, and I've messaged and try to connect with them as much as possible because about like seeing tips and tricks about how they cut things out. And then my biggest thing is I love seeing how someone else's shop is set up because I feel like just having a really comfortable flowing shop is really important.
yeah,
And I always see someone else's shop and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, and I need to do that. So my current task and thing I'm trying to tackle is dust collection because there is so much dust in here. I could invest in getting other like a dust collection system, but then there'd be like tubes everywhere, and I'm like, I don't want to be tripping over stuff. So I got like a DeWalt vacuum that I rigged up a little switch, like a button switch, and I taped it to the very end of the vacuum. So I just walk it's this right here. So just I taped it to here, and it just turns it on. So I don't gotta go to the vacuum and turn it on. So it's like I do stuff like that to make it more comfortable. I would go apprentice under someone who is like a cabinet builder, because that's what I don't, all my knowledge is in welding. So when I left the weld shop, I did try to go work for like a wood shop, but they wanted to pay me like really low compared, like pretty, I know it was going to take a pay cut and it wasn't going to be what I was making in welding because of my skill set and knowledge. Welding wasn't like in woodworking, but I'm still competent. I know how to read a tape measure. I know how to use all these power tools. And it just felt like it was kind of slap in the face. I was changing trades, but I was trying to learn. And I showed them like, hey, this is what I already do. I'm very competent in that. I'm just trying to expand it. And so that didn't work out, but I would love to go pick the brain of some older generation woodworker and just be like, show me the things that I'm not going to see online, or the tips or the tricks, or tell me things that's like, so, but I took that from like me trying to get that job. I was like, well, I've already learned this much going this far. I can just keep going, so I don't need to step out and have someone else show me the rest of the way. Why not? I just keep going, so, and that's what I've done. So like, I got a bandsaw recently and like a drill press, and I mean, I'm learning how to take care of those machines and maintenance them. So, and like, it's like I was saying in the beginning, like I'm learning how to be a small engine repair tech because the lawnmower messes up every time I mow. So,
and you're just learning from experience and trial and error. And
yeah, it's
like
all trial and error.
Referencing.
I watched some YouTube clips here and there about like how to do certain things, but I never watched the whole clip. I'm always just kind of scanning through, and you kind of like find what you think is like, all right, I like when I first got the mower, it wasn't starting. I was like, something's going on. Like I'm not pressing something right. I'm not doing a certain button combo. And I kept doing it, and I kept charging the battery. It wasn't happening. And I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, how to turn on your mower? And I watched his video. And it starts with like 5-minute intro, and I just scan forward like 30 seconds and stop, and it says, press this lever to start. And I was like, why didn't you start the video with that? And then I was off. Yeah. And then I literally
want you to get to that point in the video, and then hopefully you'll watch the rest of it.
Yeah. No, you just start with that. It comes down to having the time, having the time for, if you want to promote yourself and grow, you got to do video content now. And that's where it's at. Like, you got to make those reels, those TikToks, and, you got to be sharing them consistently. And I see people, other crafters, like, oh, like my pictures get like no likes. And I see you got to like make videos now. And I don't have time for that. And I just tell them what works for me. I was like, just snap pictures of the process during the day. Like, just take a bunch of pictures. And then when you get done at night, sit down, splice them all together, put a couple transitions in there, and then put like some fun 15-second music clip. Don't make it over like 30 seconds because people's attention span for that is really low. But as long as it's something that people haven't seen that strikes the eye, you'll get those views. And like, I've seen videos that we've shared, the number may be small, but like, I've seen them get like 10,000 views in one day compared to like a picture that gets like 100 likes. It's just like, Kimber's a perfect example is Kimber's dad. He ran a newspaper business in Wisconsin in the 90s and early 2000s. And like, advertising, local, like people would pay to run advertisements in his paper. It was called The Entertainer. And he would run your ad for whatever. And he did it for everything. He did really well. He was a radio station DJ, and then he booked shows in Wisconsin, and so he's 63. So he grew up in Wisconsin. Like, think of that 70s show. Like, I feel like that's like the vibe. Like, he got to see a lot of cool stuff in that era. So like we talk a lot with him, and he gives us a lot of pointers, and he's always shooting ideas at us, engaging with us, has notes for us. He knows about the conventions and the horror cons coming up, and so it's really nice to have someone else with the experience of running their own business giving us pointers, because like I just was doing this as a side thing. It was just like, I enjoy doing this. People enjoy what I'm doing. And now we're here doing it full time. So,
yeah, it's great that you've had mentors along the way that have helped you in your growth, and creating that business and growing your skills. That's so crucial. What's some project that you're working on now or recently finished?
So the one that you can see kind of behind me, that mirror right there is a 6-foot mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this shop called Saturn Return in Richmond on Broad Street. It's really small. It's right at the end of like, it's right in the VCU campus. It's like in the, I don't know what area that is, but it's right before that Belvedere right there, I think.
Aren't they
But
changing
anyways,
soon?
yeah. So there, she had that small shop, and it was, I don't know if you've ever been in there, but it's pretty small, and she only could decorate on the door because it was VCU property.
Mm-hmm.
So she 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 purchased a 5 foot mirror from me about like a year or two ago, and we've just established a good, like, business relationship. And she's opening a new store right by River City Diner down there, kind of by Whole Foods. There was like a little, there's a River City Diner, and then there used to be a dry cleaner, but it has its own parking lot, and she gets to paint the building. And from the first day that we walked in there to now, it's not done yet. It's almost done. It looks so cool. And like the guy doing all the woodworking and building and stuff in there, when you get a chance, you got to go by it. But that mirror is going in there with 2 other 5 foots. So I got to get that to her by the end of the week. But so that one, and then there's a bunch of the weekly orders that I have. And so there's another 6 foot I've been working on. And then we got to get those out. But we also there's a shop called Arcane that opened up near the Jefferson. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's connected, but it's right next door to Two Pillars Tattoo. And this guy named Charles Berger owns Two Pillars. And then he is partnered with this lady named Adair, and they opened up Arcane. And it's all black inside, gothic, very like fancy, ornate. And what she did is she gathered up a bunch of local crafters, and she put us all, basically you rent out, it's kind of like an antique shop, but like not an antique shop, but you pay for your booth space for what you can put in the store. So we paid for a space in the store to put our stuff in the store, so people coming into Richmond, if they want to check out things, they could see our stuff in person at the store and purchase it. So we just put probably about 20 different items in that store. And there was this guy who played at Fallout. He plays spooky folk music for vampires. I can't remember his name, but we followed him recently on Instagram because I just thought he had a cool profile, cool look, very like that vampire, like What We Do in the Shadows, if you're familiar with that TV show, kind of like, fun, what you would think a vampire would look like, just how they look. But he went to the store, and he was the first customer, and he bought one of Kimber's pieces, and that was really cool. And I thought when we were putting things in the store that Kimber's things are going to move so fast, because she just creates such cool things. She went from doing embroidery hoops to doing them in really fancy like bubble frames or ornate frames, and I'm even making frames for her. So yeah, so we'll be featured in Arcane and Saturn Returns new location opening. We're trying to get out into a store in Wisconsin and Jersey as well.
I know you guys are really active on the convention scene for selling your products and getting into new markets. I think that's really great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you get a lot of that's where you make the connections, and when you do things like that, you get to see the person's reaction to what they're buying from you, and how cool that they think it is. And it's just like, that's a really cool part of, seeing that. Because when I ship them out, I don't see that. I just feel like, oh, thank you, or, a picture shared. But like seeing someone's reaction in person is really nice. But man, I feel like I could be super awkward at times. So, because it's also like, I don't want to come off as intimidating or weird. I'm like, I try to sit down a lot, because, if I stand up, it's like, I'm a whole lot of person.
Yeah. How tall are you?
I'm 6'7".
Yeah. Is your brother as tall as you are? Or your
No,
family?
he's 6'3". I mean, I guess that's like average tall. Average tall would be like 6'3", 6'4". He's pretty mad at me during high school because I wouldn't play any sports, and I'd have principals and coaches pull me out of class and ask me if I wanted to play basketball. I'm like, no, I'm good. And I was like, the biggest thing for me, as I tell people, is my brother. He's 6'3". He was built. Best thing I remember, Stifler from American Pie.
Mm-hmm.
He looked very much like Stifler from American Pie with like a shaved head. Think of Stifler, not Stifler, but the movie Goon. If you're familiar with Goon,
Yeah.
like when he looked like, whenever he was in that movie, my brother, like, I could show you like twin pictures of how they look. So he was like kind of like that build. But So he would play sports to be like the enforcer. He was always like the guy, the scrapper. Like he wouldn't care. He would just go in. And we would play basketball on the driveway, and I'd always be on the ground. I'm like, this isn't fun. So I was like, if I'm gonna be on the ground, I'm gonna go skateboard and do it myself. So and then I don't know, like I also think lately I've been thinking about why I turned away from sports is because my dad always coached my teams and he was always just yelling at me. So I was like, this isn't fun. Like, I don't want to be yelled at. So it's like whenever you were talking about with your dad, like coming home from work and like, the tension from work and like there'd be times when my dad would come home from work and he rode a Harley. So I'd hear him coming down the road and me and my mom would be talking and like one of her friends was hanging out in the kitchen and she'd be like, well, you better go to your room because you know what your dad's going to say when he comes inside. And just like, all right, like, he would just tell me to get out of here. That's adult time. So I was like, get out of there. So we just butted heads a lot as in my teenager years, but late teens when I moved out, it got a lot better. So.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that, my relationship with my dad definitely affected my lack of interest in team sports over the years. And, with time and with distance, we have been able to improve our relationship as well as, talking about, how we treated each other in the past and giving each other for that. That was a big step as well.
Mm-hmm.
Have you and your dad talked about that? Like,
no, not much. Like we have a fine relationship, but there's just I use the word disconnect, but not in like a bad way. Like there's a disconnect in emotion, but it's not like he like neglected me or anything. It's just more so like it wasn't very like, hey, if you need to talk to me about anything, you can talk to me. Like it's just more so like, which also has created emotional disconnect in relationships for me, which is a problem. That I recognize that like I will be emotionally blank in moments that I should probably be more connected. But then I'm like super connected to animals. Like if someone passes away, I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like, and then sorry. But if my dog passes away, I'm like bawling my eyes out. It's just like, so I don't know exactly. That's something I would probably like to sort out eventually, but it's just more so like we have this relationship where it's fine, but when we talk, it's usually like, what's wrong? Why are you calling me?
Yeah.
Like, it's like
Yeah,
he'll call me like, what's wrong? Where's mom at? It's like he's like, why do you think? I was like, well, because every time you call me, like something's wrong. So maybe call me more. You can change that. So we do have good talks and everything, but it's just one of those like father son, like very straightforward. There's not a lot of depth to emotion. I'm sure if I wanted it to be, there would be, but it's also like I have my perspective on how those conversations would go, but I don't want to assume how they would go, but when they keep going that way, you start assuming like, there's no point to trying,
Yeah. So. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I want to move on to
for sure. I don't want to get stuck on that.
So you mentioned before like you're normally not like an early riser and you'll like hit the snooze button. I'm definitely guilty of doing that too. But when you do wake up, what's your morning routine look like?
I wake up, feed the dogs, give them a bunch of love and kisses on the nose, and they'll follow me around. They know my morning routine so well that they just off my gestures, they know to go to this certain. They have a room in the house where I get ready for. Because the closet space is kind of tight in the one bedroom we stay in, so I have another room that I go to get dressed, and so we'll do that, and then get coffee, feed them, and then I try to do my social media stuff right in the morning. So like while I'm drinking my coffee, doing my morning routine, checking out Facebook, Instagram. I mean, my personal Facebook and personal Instagram is just an extension of Just Buried. Just you've caught on. I'll share pictures of the dog and the dogs here and there, and then some whatever shows that we're playing coming up. But like 9 times out of 10, it's Just Buried, and I tell Kimber that a lot of the reason why Just Buried is what it is today is because I shared it so much. I put it out there so much. You should know that when you think of me, you think of like that he makes coffins. It's definitely like
part of your personal brand, right? Like it's who you are, it's what you do, and
Yeah, so it's definitely like that's a big thing I've been trying to get with her because she doesn't really use social media that much, and I always joke with her that like for her to share her things, I have to make the post and tag her in it, and then she just shares my post. So,
It's
and I
cool.
tell her I'm like, oh, you're creating such cool things, and like it's just like she's doing really she started with an embroidery machine with hoops, embroidery with fancy ornate frames, and now she's doing the fancy ornate like frames with butterflies and moths and creating like
Yeah.
it's so cool. And then it's also she's still doing embroidery work because the background of where like she'll put the butterfly or moth in the frame, but the background is an embroidered piece that she put in there. So each background is like custom made, and it just it steps it up so much to like it just really hits that the whole finer things in depth, and that also helps. It pushes me to be even better too. It's like, well, I got to put out quality stuff with this. I can't be putting out what I've been putting out. Like so, it's fun. It's like it's definitely a lot of growing. So
Yeah. And you guys are doing it together, and you can, stoke each other's creative passions and, give each other
yeah,
and collaborate in different ways. So that's really great that
yeah.
you just have that not just as business partners, but also in your relationship.
Yeah, we have so many creative ideas that we just I can't I, like it's like getting like to the conventions that we're doing. I did a themed cabinet recently with a red piece of stained glass, and I just put it together. And I was like, oh, this looks like the Dracula cabinet, and so we just called it the Dracula cabinet. And it's just like that's featured in Arcane. So I was like, we should do more of those, and we should just I should not don't list them on the website, just share them on Instagram, but showcase them at the markets, the conventions. And so I'm gonna do one that's an Undertaker theme, and then a Kane theme, and call it the Cabinets of Destruction. So, so I feel like that would be a hit at like a pop horror con, because also they have like panelists that go there, and they like some of the panelists are wrestlers. So it's like it's really cool to. We've done like markets at Diversity Thrift and Stone Brewing. They're just like crafter markets, but like the Galaxy Cons, the Horror Cons, the Monster Manias, like we're panelists, and actors are coming, and you get to meet these cool people and hang out with them. They're like 2 to 3 day events. Like those are the ones that we're like going at now.
Do you have a workout routine that you like to do to stay active when you're not working on Just Buried?
Uh no, but listening to you talking about running and thinking about Kimber's dad is 63, and he looks like he is in his early 50s, very fit, very, just great looking body for his age. And he runs every day, works out every day. And I was like, man, I carry all my weight in my belly. And so like, I just,
Yeah.
I weigh about 220, and it's just like I can put on a large t-shirt and you can kind of see like a belly hanging out there, but it's not bad, but it's just like that's where I would want for that. So I think picking up running would be helpful, and off of you saying don't run in new shoes would be also helpful. So what would you do to break those shoes in? Just walk around in them?
Well, no. I mean, yes, walking is good. You do have to run in new shoes. I wouldn't recommend running a marathon or a half.
Yeah, that was yeah. So if I
Like,
ran like a mile, it'd be okay.
yeah, but like,
Okay.
a mile or 2 miles, whatever you feel comfortable doing, that would help break them in for sure. Just don't go all in on 13 to 26.
Yeah, no. You talking about doing those marathons, and you're like, oh, my family's either watch football or run a 10K, and I was like, man, I'm so glad I've never dated anyone's family that was into doing that. Like, I got a big stride when I get going. That's cool. Like my stride's big, but uh, I would like to, because when her dad's here and he visits, he knows that from our house to the end of the neighborhood is a mile. And I was like, you know what? I could start running that,
Mhm.
set aside like 30 minutes of my day and run a mile a day, and then start picking it up, going from there. But
Yeah.
as of right now, workout that I do, the band that you step on, and it's like a stretchy band. It has two handles, and you pull up, and you can do that. I do that a couple times a day. I try to come out and just stretch my arms, and I do that and try to go up and everything. But it's only like arm stretches. It's not like leg stretches or anything. So, but I'm always on my feet for about 10 to 15 hours a day. So
Yeah, you're, doing a labor intensive job, so that definitely takes
yeah,
a lot out of you as well, I'm
I
sure.
I feel like if I sat down, it would slow me down because of how fast I move around the shop. Because like, oh, I need to be over here running the saw, but then I need to run this saw. Then I need to go get this air compressor. It's just like I can't move as fast as I want sitting down. So, and I
Mhm.
have so much space here, so it's like, I it from when we first moved here last October to how it is now. I made my work table look like a J. So I was like, it would come in and I would stand in like the part of the J and it would hoop around. My saw was there, so I could kind of stand in one spot and just keep turning and pivoting, and I'd be able to do everything. And then recently, I cut the table in half so I could feel like I didn't have to walk around, and I created a whole new workspace. And so
Cool.
yeah, Kimber's office, she moved hers office around as well and created a bunch more room. We're both outgrowing our offices and our workspaces, but that's like, that's what happens when you invest in yourself and you continue to grow. And so it's like, you know, I think it's cool to see, like, the growth and what has been happening. So
Is the next step for Just Buried to move out of your house and into a warehouse?
No, we have enough space here, and there's a shed across the driveway. And so the plan is, if I ever feel like I'm running out of space in here, I'm going to build onto it like another 20, 30 feet.
Hmm.
But then I'd have to run electrical to it, and then, fireproof it. And it's just, it would be fun to build, but it's just right now we don't need to. But it is our storage space. But as far as like a warehouse, having our workspace at home, so we don't even got to leave the house. So nice. I know that gas prices have been ridiculous lately, but we
Right.
never drive, so I don't ever realize what they are. Like,
Unless you're driving
so
to Richmond, right?
yeah. Richmond's about 45 minutes, and that's also another thing too. Here, living here, is that the closest hardware store or anything is like it's 30 minutes. So it's like I can drive to Short Pump and hit that. There's a Home Depot and a Lowe's like kind of in the same area, which is really convenient because Lowe's has some of the stuff I need. Home Depot has some of the other stuff. And it's kind of annoying that both the stores carry the things I need, but I wish it was in one spot. But it's like, since it's all in one location, it's not that bad. But going to get hard, like, material now becomes like a half your morning task. When I was in Richmond, it was like I could go to Home Depot in like 5 minutes.
Right. It's a lot more
So
accessible, when you're in a
yeah,
area than the rural
yeah.
environment you're in now.
hmm The convenient, yeah, I miss the convenience of the city for sure, but I don't miss living in the city. It's so like hectic and like crowded. And the neighbor that we lived in Northside off of North Avenue, right, kind of like a block or two away from Fuzzy Cactus. Really cool little
Okay.
area, and like it's definitely coming up. And Fuzzy Cactus, great place, cool
Yeah.
shows, awesome, staff. Like, so we enjoyed it. But like the first day that we moved into the house over there, we lived off of North Avenue, and that was like a busy street, and cars would just zip up and down. And we had a whole front porch. Like, oh, cool, we're gonna hang out, front porch. That's what you do in Richmond. You sit on the front porch and hang out. It's like a Richmond thing. And like I was so stoked on that. And the first thing we moved in, the neighbors like asking us for cigarettes and money, and I'm like, ah, man, like. And he just hung on this porch the whole time. So every time we were out there, he was always trying to ask us for something, and it just took the excitement away. And then near the end of us living there, we saw him try to stab his roommate with a butcher knife. And so,
Shit.
yeah, it was just, yeah. And then nothing happened. They just kept living together. So
Wow.
whatever the context was there, that it was a scene to watch. That, he's coming at his roommate with a butcher knife on the porch, and then the roommate's grabbing his hand, and it's just, that's Richmond.
Yeah,
So
certain parts of Richmond, that's for sure. How do you practice self-care in your life?
ah, man, I wish I could do it more. Self care, like for me, comes from that, because I start thinking about, all right, these are the things you need to do better on, and
Yeah.
and be better for the person immediately in your life. And since me and Kimber only spend most of our time with each other because we're so far out here that it's hard for like if you were gonna come hang out, I'd be like, you really want to drive 45 minutes? Like you might hit a deer coming out here. I'll just come to you. Self-care stuff. So like being a better person for Kimber, to self-reflect on things and think about, you need to do this better, you need to do this, you need to get into talking to other people about things that you feel like you can't talk about with her, and to be better. And like, so, and I also I always tell her, like, I like going out with her because I like watching her interact with other people because it helps me understand her as a person. Because if I'm only seeing her every day and I'm not seeing anybody else, I'm thinking that either she's a problem or I'm the problem. And I need to understand how she is around people to understand how to be around her.
I
So,
love that. Yeah, that's such a great reframing for, you know, how you want to better yourself and better your relationship. And
yeah.
I don't know if I've had that direct thought before, but that does make sense, like the way you explained it. Like, I definitely think I appreciate my partner in different ways when I see her interacting with,
Oh,
you know,
yeah. Yeah.
family
It's
members.
fun to it's fun to watch and admire. You're like, was that weird? It's like, no. I was like, I just Kimber's just so enthusiastic and funny and just she just has a great, like, you just have to understand her as a person to go to get that she's not being sarcastic and she's being genuine. And it's like, and that is something that I struggle with sometimes because, like, I'll say something and I, sometimes will hold back because I don't want to upset her, or I think she's going to react a certain way. And my current thing is I'm doing is, instead of assuming how someone's going to react and not doing what I want to do, I just let the person react because I don't want to assume how you're going to react to something. I want to, like, I mean, you like, it could be as simple as like, hey, like, we're going to go get food, but, oh, we can't go there because Joe doesn't eat meat. Well, let Joe make that decision. Like, let Joe make that choice. It's like, I know it's being considerate of you, but, like, it's just something as simple as that. It's like, don't worry about what other people are doing, but, like, more so just let them react. Don't plan someone's reaction for them, because
Sure.
what if they didn't react that way? We had a great time, So it's like, I know that's my current thing that I'm working on. So, but self-care, I feel like I always could do more of it. I definitely need to get back into seeing, like, a therapist and talking to someone else besides Kimber about things that are on my mind and,
Mhm.
outside of my family. And, so um, there's always ways to do better in that, for sure. That's one of the things that Kimber always tells me, like, do better. And, that's just a good quote to live by. It's just like, do better. Whatever you need to do better in, just do better. Blanket statement. I
Yeah.
can give you more context, but, do better.
Right. Well, I'm a big advocate for therapy, and I'm also a growing advocate for cannabis and THC. I used to drink a lot, and that definitely, I think, caused more anxiety than it helped me with.
Yeah.
But since I quit drinking in 2019 and started smoking more marijuana, that's definitely helped me to be more in touch with my emotions and regulating that anxiety more effectively. I also take medication for anxiety and
Hmm.
depression, and that's really helpful for me as well. So you just got to figure out what works for you. And it sounds like you're doing
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. I know that before I went to California, I was seeing a therapist in person in Virginia Beach, and I know that I think she's associated with BetterHelp. So I think just reaching out to her through that might be able to connect with her again. And I really enjoyed talking with her when I had the opportunities to. So it's just it's just doing it. I could give you all the excuses of why I haven't done it, but it's just excuses. It's just like, literally, like, get on your phone and do it. It's like going to trade school. Like, what are you doing? Get off your butt. It's like, so it's like, you have the power to do this. And it's just like, either you can sit in it or you can do things about it. It's like, I texted one of my friends recently, and he's a really close friend of mine, like someone I call my brother. And he lost his mom recently, and he just, he was already feeling, depressed and, like, overwhelmed with, like, debt and trying to climb out of, like, money stuff. And I'm like, just move up to Richmond. Like, you got a lot of cool friends and support up here, and, like, trying to get him out of Virginia Beach, like another Virginia Beach transplant. We always leave Virginia Beach and come to Richmond. So it's like,
You live,
what I
yeah.
told him, I was like, you can't wait to live. I was like, forget, it's like a certain quote. It was like, you can't wait for everything to be better to live your life. It's something along the lines of that makes sense. I feel like I'm, like, butchering it, like, by saying it the wrong way. Because if you say it the wrong way, it sounds like, well, you should, it's like, it's something about, like, live your life, but still, like, make things better for yourself, but don't be consumed in it. Don't just sit in the moment. Like, you gotta, like, keep moving. So it's
Action.
like,
Yeah.
So I wish I knew exactly what it was. It sounds way better than me butchering it right now.
Well, one
So
quote that I love, and it's actually tattooed on me now, is keep moving forward and, you know, leave the past in the past and, try
yeah,
and better yourself going forward. That's really been
I
a focus of mine.
I always think of Turnstiles when he said keep it moving. Like
Yeah.
and when that yeah,
That's,
I always think of that, and it's like I have on the wall. I don't know if you can kind of see it up there. There's a poster of Frankenstein
uh-huh.
holding a bunch of work tools, and it says, "Don't get mad, get busy." And that's like, a motivation. I have like a bunch of quotes. There's a quote I wrote on my wall that I heard on a podcast or someone saying that people want to see something they have never seen before, and
Uh-huh.
that's like inspiration for like me. So like when I'm feeling like like what can I do this week? It's like look at that and like this is what is going to make you grow and climb that ladder of like to get the attention. And so you know like us getting out there at those conventions and those horror cons and like meeting people, it's like those are where we shine. Because like Kimber sends me away from the booth to go promote, and she'll like just she was a server and a bartender for like 8 years at a steakhouse, and so she knows how to talk to people. She knows how to sell things, and she'll send me out promoting and everything. So it's really cool to do it with her, and like it has also helped our relationship grow a lot too, because it helps us communicate better. I mean, we still have our ups and downs, but it's like it's a lot of growth together, and like the creativity is like we'll sit down and talk about something, and we're just like tagging it just left and right, and it's by the end of the conversation we have some cool idea that we're gonna like move forward with. So
That's, yeah, and it's
but
awesome to have such positive affirmations all around your workshop to, help you stay inspired and stay focused on
yeah,
doing the next best thing for your business.
yeah, I don't want to have anything in here reminding me of like bad things or slowing me down. So it's like anytime I hear something that's gonna like a quote or anything that makes sense, it's like that's a good I want to share that. Like when I shared that quote with my friend, I was like I heard this, it resonated with me. I want to pass it along to you. Do what you want with it, but I think that you should hear this too. I'm not gonna preach to you why you should focus on it, but just want to put
Yeah.
this in, float this out there to you so you can do what you want with it. So
So the last question I have before we wrap up is centered around food and nutrition. It's part of
uh
our segment called Good Food, Good Mood. So what's
uh
your go-to meals that helps you to feel your best?
um man, for breakfast, uh I always drink a cup of coffee with some creamer, and then I'm always down for a bowl of cereal and some bananas, and then some fruit. So I've told people recently, if you ever see me at a show, you're gonna see me eating a banana at some point.
I
So
don't think I've
it's
ever seen you eating a banana at a show, though. I'm going to call you out on that.
oh, there I can give you evidence, but I always say it's two bananas day of a show. So it's one when I go to get one before like one before at like load in, eat a banana before load in, and then
uh,
one right before you play. And what it does, if you like whenever like 2010 Honor Crest era, whatever they call it, the Bangover, if you
yeah.
remember that, it helps you not feel that the next day. Because when we played our first show after the pandemic opened back up and everything, we played in Fredericksburg about last September, and it was the first show since everything shut down. And the next day, I was like, man, I cannot. And my legs were so sore, and I don't even move around that much. It's just like something happens in my body where it's like my thighs tense up so bad. Like it's just I feel I don't know what it is. It's just like they lock up, and my hands start locking. So I read some stuff, and like someone suggested like potassium. I was like, well, I'll eat bananas. And so I'm always chowing down on bananas before shows, and also just weekly because I feel like I'm 36 now. It's like I'm not getting any younger. So
Yeah.
I feel like this is around the time like like hey like I'm headed towards 40. Like let's like the workout nutrition thing like it would be helpful to carve it up to be more in line with keeping a better physical you know body tone or whatever. I don't know, but bananas and cereal and coffee in the morning are a cheese Danish. I like a good strawberry cheese Danish. We eat a lot of those here. But I'd say I don't eat too healthy, but I also don't feel like I eat bad. But it's more so like eat like pizza, hamburgers, steak, um, spaghetti. I don't know. It always could be better though. So any pointers or anything like the running thing or working out? Like I feel so naive to that stuff. It's just like it'd be like me walking into a gym and just like looking at the machines, like how do I use these? And like waiting for someone to come over and this is what you do. So it's like, but I just more so just start jumping into it now. It's like I'll figure it out as I go because like I could stand there and be afraid of it and not do it, or I can just try it and see what happens. But,
Yeah, well, if you want to get into running, I definitely recommend, you know, going for a mile run. Just start where you're at,
mhm. I
do
know the
do
dogs would
do
love
what
it.
do what
Yeah.
you feel comfortable with. There's a great app that I used when I started running, called Couch to 5K. I'm pretty sure it's still available.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember you mentioned that in the episode. So you
yeah,
filmed that episode in what 2020 or 2021 or when did you film that episode?
well, we just recorded audio, but
Oh,
it
okay.
was on someone else's podcast, and we recorded it in 2020 in
Oh, okay.
in the living room of my old apartment.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause I remember you said that you recorded it a while ago, and so it's been out, but you wanted to feature it on this podcast.
Exactly. And then
Okay. Yeah.
the episode after that is from 2020. It's highlighting from 2020 to 2022.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll be catching people up to what I've been up to since then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because yeah, okay, I'll have to listen to that one too. So I was like, huh, like because I wasn't sure like what has changed, and I know that you have a dog now and you're engaged.
Yeah, we got engaged
So
last February, and we're getting married this October.
that's exciting. Yeah, our plan, me and Kimber, is we got engaged last a year ago. We went to Philly, and I proposed her at the aquarium, and not in Philly, but the aquarium across the water, right there in Camden. But so we just had our year anniversary of being engaged. But our plan is to go to Vegas, so to get married. So, but
Hey,
we're just so busy that But I told her that the more that I meet her family, that the more like the idea of having an actual wedding is like, it would be nice to have all these people there because like her family is just all of her nieces and nephews, and they're all just they're all range from like 7 to 15, and there's like six of
uh,
them, so they're all at different stages of being a kid. It's like like this is fun because I remember being this age and like the things that you're into and like how you think everything and you're learning, and so it was fun to meet everyone, and I was like, man, it would be nice, but like I don't know, that's like it's not on the forefront right now. But so your wedding is in October though, in
yeah, it's
Richmond.
fun, man. It's gonna be in Powhatan, Virginia, so close to Richmond. Uh,
Yeah, okay. I
but
know I know of Palatine, I just don't know where it's at exactly. So
yeah, it's in Goochland County, I think.
oh, okay. Yeah. I know of Goochland. Yeah, okay. So
Mhm.
okay.
Cool. Have you guys set a date for your wedding?
No, because it it was the plan was to go to Vegas for Thanksgiving, but now the plan would be to go to Texas just to visit one of her oldest sister and her family there. They live a little bit outside of Austin, I think, or close by. But the plan would be drive to Texas now and spend time with her family. So, and I know it's a long drive. Like we drove to Wisconsin in June, and it was about 14 hours. Because that's Kimber grew up in Wisconsin. She moved to Virginia when she was 20 to go to VCU. She started college in Milwaukee, and then her stepfather and mother moved here, and so they're like, "Well, hey, come here. There's a campus here." And man, what I'll drive around that square in Richmond by the Altria Theater with all those college kids hanging out, and like it's so cool to like Richmond is so cultured, diverse, and full of music, full of art, and like being in Richmond for at a young adult age like that is such like a defining moment in who you are and can shape you as a person. It's like if you get to move to Richmond when you're that young, like that's like such an opportunity. I wish I had moved here sooner. Like it's just I just always had this lens of Richmond not being a fun place and just go there for shows. And I came here because Jesse asked me to join, play with Wish, and then we started guardrails. I came here to play music, but then I met my wife, and now look where I'm at. So it's like, it's just like, it's like one of those butterfly effects. So I always joke with Jesse, and I was like, thank you. Like,
Yeah,
thank you
right.
for giving me this, like, thank you for bringing me here because of because our friendship on Facebook for the last 10 years and talking about music, because he grew up in Portsmouth, like, so it's like, he's from the whole Tidewater area too. And it's just like him asking me to come here really opened the door. And then all of a sudden I meet Kimber, and like, look where I'm at now, 3 years later almost. So it's like, yeah, it's coming up on 3 years in September. So I'm right there.
How'd you guys meet?
So through Hinge,
Okay.
good old online dating. Yeah.
Yeah. Season
Is that same
season
way?
met on Tinder initially. We dated,
Yeah.
and then we broke up, and then we uh, reconnected on Hinge. So
Yeah.
we're big Hinge fans. For
Yeah. I like Hinge. Hinge was more like there was the I don't know how it is now because it's been almost 2.5 years since I've been using that app or whatever. But
yeah,
at the time, it was like you could interact on a picture instead of just liking something on the person's page. Liking the page, you could be like, oh, I like this picture. And what Kimber liked on mine is I was wearing a creature from the Black Lagoon mask, and she thought that's so cool, and like and that's the first thing we connected on. And so it's also like I always tell people, like, because we feature creature in a lot of our posts and a lot of our apparel, and I was wearing the mask in pictures. So it's like it's like people love that. They love seeing the mask on display in our booth, and they'll ask about it. And then I was always on the backstory because I always say people want to buy a story as well. Like if you could sell a story of what you're selling, people are more likely to buy it. So it's like we love like the conventions and markets are really cool places. We get to connect with everybody and share our story. So
right. And now it's come back full circle when she connected with you in the creature mask, and now she's helping you create creatures of your own, with your
oh
business.
yeah. So
Super cool that you
yeah.
guys have had that connection.
But yeah, I'd say yeah. Back to the wedding question. No tentative date on it. I'm such a person that I can float with whatever idea is being put out there, or like I'm not married to my ideas or married to like, oh, we're doing this then. Like if something changes, I'm pretty easygoing on like I can, on the fly change with it. So it's like, yeah, like right now, like let's go to Vegas, get married by the king. That's the idea. Have a reception with all of our friends when we get back. But it's like the more that I meet people, the more the time passes, I'm like, well, why not just have a wedding in Wisconsin? Like where she's from and all her family is. So it's like, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so back and forth. We'll see what happens. But I also feel like we're already married because I don't know. It might be different whenever actually that when you do the ceremony, but I just feel like I call her my wife now, and so that's just what it is. So.
Well, Cotie, thank you for this conversation. I really enjoyed having it with you and getting to know you more. And I'm definitely looking forward to more conversations. Where can people connect with you if they want to follow along with you on your journey, either personally or with Just Buried?
For Just Buried, it's Just Buried _co. So Just Buried _co. And that's on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So definitely check us out on TikTok because that's a whole learning curve. And then any of the conventions coming up, we just signed up for another one in December. That's like a Friday the 13th one that it's apparently the guy who plays Jason in the movies is going to be there as well. So that's like that's my favorite slasher. It's just Jason Voorhees. So being a part of that is like, this is cool because like not only we get to go sell this stuff, it's just we get to meet all these really cool people and connect with everybody. So I was going to say one last story that are connecting with people is that we did the punk rock flea market in Trenton, New Jersey. It was 2 days, great time. We met a lot of cool people. They put us up in the concession loop of the arena. So we weren't down on the arena floor with all the vendors, which is okay because we had a big booth. We had like about a 10 by 15 space, and it really helped us out. But the issue was we were between two peanut vendors, like selling peanuts. And I was like, how do we connect with the peanut people? And I had to go walk around the market with holding one of my mirrors and to connect with other artists of like us to kind of, they're like, oh, you should check out these conventions or these markets. And it's like the peanut people aren't going to tell us that. So it's like, that was like a big learning curve too. Like when we go to these new markets, like the vendor request form, put that in there, like put us next to other vendors we can connect with and network with. So nice people, but I don't want to know where I can sell peanuts. So.
Well, good thing neither one of you had a nut allergy.
Oh yeah, that too. So yeah, but I appreciate you having me on here and let me share my story and my journey and everything. So it's gonna continue, and love to get Kimber on here with me to talk about Just Buried and have her on here as well for her. So she's got a moving to Richmond and what she's been through, and so definitely got a really cool perspective on things as well. So
for sure. Thanks again, Cotie. Take care, man.
All right.
Talk to you later.
You too, man.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out our podcast. I hope you got a lot out of it and it was helpful for you in your personal growth journey. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, please do so on your preferred podcast provider. We're available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Stay blessed and keep the PMA. Later.